Hello, folks. Now, with the holiday season coming up, I'm guessing some of you are going to be thinking about gifting something like this, or maybe some other type of leather good. Now, alas, at the moment, I can't make you one. Well, at least not in time for Christmas. My own order book is full up until January. Now, what I can do is walk you through how to make one and break down why the prices on things like this can vary so much. Now, unfortunately, these days, expensive doesn't mean better quality necessarily. It could be better branding, better marketing, all that kind of guff. So I'm going to show you what to look for when buying leather goods. Hopefully I can save you some cash, or at least make sure you get what you pay for. Now with wallets like this, you can pay anything from well over $900 to well $9 if you're shopping on the Temu. And I'm going to break down why that is. Now in the background of this video, you'll see me actually start to build this wallet. Now, hopefully you'll be able to follow along with that. I'm going to give you the templates for this wallet free of charge, my templates until January, so you can print that out and have a go. You don't need any fancy tools for this one. I'm also going to give the templates for all the lining. Skip the lining if this is your first build. It's a genuine pain in the backside. As I say, you don't need any fancy tools. A knife and an owl, basically a needle on a stick, is all you need. You'll also need some thread for stitching and a couple of needles, but you can do this without too many tools at all. Now, if you're one of those people that believes everything over $20 is just some sort of rip-off, I might be able to show you that that isn't always the case. I mean, probably not, but hey, at least it should make for an interesting video and a lively comments section. Now, I'm also not here to tell you to spend more than $20. I just want to try and explain why some things cost what they do, and how to spot the ones that are genuinely worth the money from the ones that are just branded marketing nonsense. So what is the real difference? What are you actually paying for, and how do you make sure you're not getting taken for a ride? Now, full disclosure, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure you've figured it out by now, but I just want to be forthright. I'm a leather worker that sells bespoke pieces. Everything I make is a one-of-one, built to client specifications. So yeah, I absolutely have a horse in this race. That said, I'm hoping what I'm going to share here is going to be practical, common sense stuff. Just remember, I mean, I'm sure I don't need to say this, but don't take anything you hear on the internet as gospel. Do a bit of your own research before handing over your hard-earned cash. Which brings me on to point number one. If you're going to buy something expensive and it's made of leather, make sure the place you're shopping names their leather. Terms like vachetta leather, full grain, top grain, vegetable tanned don't actually mean a lot. I can buy vegetable tanned leather for $1 a square foot, or I can buy it for $50 a square foot in the case of J&FJ Baker and people like this. So it doesn't mean a lot at all. Now, if the place you're shopping at is using very good materials because you're paying a lot of money, you would hope that they would at least list the tannery and the type of leather from that tannery, because even very good leather tanneries have cheaper ranges. So the first thing you want to do is look out for the tannery and the name of the leather from the tannery. If they don't have it listed, ask them, email them, call them up, be annoying, make sure that they can tell you. If they can't tell you, or they come back to you with some generic terms like, oh yes, it's a vegetable tanned, blah, 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 avoid it like the plague. If it's got the word genuine leather on it and it's not cheap, just start walking in the other direction would be my advice. Now, while genuine leather is not intrinsically terrible, it is a very cheap material that lends itself well to mass production. It's also not leather. It's a funny or depressing story, depending on how you look at it. Back in the day, they were selling compressed leather fibers, think MDF, as leather, or even plastic with a few bits of leather fibers mixed in and calling it leather. Obviously, people weren't best pleased. When you're buying leather, you expect to get leather, the properties of leather, the strength of leather, the wear resistance. You're not really expecting a bit of fibers, glue, and maybe some PVC in there. So they complained, and lawmakers actually agreed, which is a turn up for the books. But in what I can only assume was some brown envelopes that went under the table, the name they came up for this leather, or, basically not leather, a sprinkling of leather fibers, was genuine leather. So I don't know about you, but genuine leather sounds a lot like leather to me. If I go into the lumberyard and I'm like, you got any walnut? And he's like, yeah, I got some genuine walnut over here. I'm just going to assume he meant that that was walnut, right? But yeah, in this case, genuine leather is just not leather. Really is no different from taking a bucket of pine sawdust, mixing in a sprinkle of walnut sawdust, compressing it into a board and calling it genuine walnut. Anyhow, nowadays the term genuine leather is a catch-all term that covers a wide range of leather-like things. And at best, they're okay and cheap, which is nice. Sometimes you just want a strongish bag that costs next to nothing that you can chuck tools in. It's fine. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it's cheap material. And at its worst, it's just going to fall apart in 6 months. Now, unfortunately, 95% of the leather you buy on the high street is genuine leather, or the correct term should probably be not genuine leather. That's my two top tips if you're going to buy something out of leather, whether for the holidays or not. Make sure the place you're buying from is naming their tannery, naming the specific leather from that tannery. If they're using lining, like I'm going to do in this wallet, and I suggest you do not, I'm using, in this case, lamb's lining from Bernardo in Milan. It's very good. It's also very expensive. So I list that on the website. I will tell you what I am using. I think you deserve to know. Now, this is ostrich, by the way. You can see in the background. This is from the Netherlands. I buy it from a farm there. It's good quality ostrich. This piece actually has a little bit of damage on it, which I didn't notice until after I'd finished. And what I'm doing here is I'm just using a dye to give this a more interesting antique look. So you probably saw me use, I think it was Angela's leather deglazer and prepare it at the beginning of the video. You, of course, don't need to do this. You can just use a standard leather pocket. I thought that this ostrich was looking rather nice, and I am gifting this wallet. So I'm going to make it a bit fancy dan. You do not need to at all. So the other thing, lining, as I mentioned, I use lamb, I use goat, I use Zermatt calf. All of these are very high quality backing materials, and I'm not trying to make myself sound like the best leather worker in Christendom here that only uses the finest stuff. I am certainly not the best leather worker in Christendom. I do use the finest stuff, but because people pay me for my time, there is no point nickel and diming on materials. Now, most of the lining you see will unfortunately be PVC backed. It's kind of a PVC paper backing with a bit of self-adhesive tape on it. Or you'll see fabric linings quite a lot. There's nothing wrong with this. It's just cheaper. It takes less skill. You don't have to skive lamb, which is a genuine pain. You don't have to cut all of your leathers wafer thin and then rebond them back together. It's less time consuming. It's cheaper, basically. So the point I'm trying to get across is not that there's anything wrong with cheap things. Sometimes you just want a cheap thing, right? You don't need an heirloom quality thing. Not everything has to be artisanally bespoke made. I don't want to buy artisanal toilet paper. Like, just give me the mass-produced stuff. It's fine. My kitchen towels do not need to be hand-rolled by some dude in Europe, It's just, if you're going to spend money, you should be spending it on things that, in my opinion, are important, which would be the work that's carried out, the amount of labor and time that work takes, and the quality of the materials. You shouldn't be buying it because it says Hermes on the front, or really any designer brand. There's the guy on YouTube that cuts these in half. It's a little bit of a disgrace what's happening in the industry right now. I'll link his channel down below. Genuinely interesting to watch. This is why I would wholeheartedly recommend that you query your leather worker or the store where you're buying your leather. What's the leather? What tannery is it from? What is the leather from that tannery? Are they using lining? Most people are not, or they're using paper lining, paper PVC combination. Ask them what the lining is, what the lamb is, where did the lamb come from? All of these things are important, and they all have a great deal of difference on the price. Or they don't necessarily nowadays, but they should. And these are the things that, as a leather worker, they're important to me. These are the questions I ask when I buy something. If a guy put 10 hours of work into it and he bills out his time at $30 an hour, well, you're looking at a $300 charge for that. But I'm okay with paying that because I believe that people should get paid for their labor. Now, there are other ways to do it. You can stamp it out with a die, you can sew it with a machine. As I said, not everything has to be expensive, but if you're in the market to spend some money on a nice gift or just something nice for yourself, you want to figure out what you're paying for. Which brings me along quite neatly to what I'm happy to pay for, and that is, as I mentioned, labor. Now, if it's being hand produced like I'm doing here, everything is hand cut, everything is hand skived, and everything in a moment will be hand stitched. That takes time, and people need to be paid for their labor. Now, if you want to start a leatherworking business, I would advise you not to do it in the way I do it. Now, I make specialist pieces for a very small number of people. I simply do not have the time to make more than X amount of things a day, and it's not many. So you can get cutting dies that come down and cut the leather for you, and a modern leather sewing machine, which will sew the whole thing in minutes, if not seconds, depending on how complicated it is. So handmade isn't actually a legally protected term. I can cut it with dies, sew it with a machine, and as long as my hand touches it at some point, I can legally call it handmade, which is why you won't see the term handmade stamped on any of my stuff, because it actually doesn't mean anything. So if you're paying an expensive price tag and it's important to you, and that's important to point out, it might not be important to you. Maybe you don't care if somebody made it by hand. Maybe you are just looking for a high quality mass produced item, and that's fine as well. But if you believe that you're paying extra money for a handmade item, you want to ask them, do you cut the leather by hand? Do you skive it by hand? Do you stitch by hand? Is it machine sewn? So the question you should probably really ask there is if the leather is machine stitched or hand stitched. So for a wallet like this, it takes me over an hour to stitch it. And as the client, you're going to have to pay the freight on that. I'm not out here working for free, and nor should anyone else be. Now, if you don't care about that, if that's not something that's important to you, then machine stitching is fine. Actually, hand stitching looks nicer in my opinion. It's also stronger. There's a reason why we use a saddle stitch, and that's used to stitch saddles together. What type of string is also a thing. You might not be able to find that specific information, but hey, you can ask. The string I buy is around 40 times more expensive than a standard spool of polyester. I use linen for the most part. I will use polyester from a brand called Wexin. They make excellent quality polyester, the best in the business in my experience, and there is a difference. Now, some bright lad in the comments will undoubtedly tell me that polyester has a slightly higher tensile strength than linen, and because I use mainly linen, somebody always brings this up. But the thing is, horse saddles have been stitched with linen for untold generations, and it keeps you from falling off a horse at full gallop. So it's going to keep your wallet together. Also, there's a huge difference. Very high quality linen, like I use, is stronger than cheap polyester. And also, I'd like to point out the stainless steel watch is stronger than a solid gold one, but I probably prefer the solid gold one, all things considered. You don't use the strongest material you can possibly obtain. If so, I would just use braided steel cable to stitch everything together. I'm going to use the right material for the job, and if you want a nice string that doesn't fray, you want a very high quality linen. It just looks nicer, and it's going to last probably as long as you. Now, the thing with my stuff as well is if the stitching were to break, because it's saddle stitched, the whole thing's not going to come apart. It's just not going to look good if you've got a broken stitch, but send it back to me and I'll restitch it for you. So you want to find out what people are using, what type of string. You want to go into the minutiae, how many hours of labor went into it. Now, I'm not saying it's necessary. I'm simply saying if somebody is asking you for hundreds of dollars for something, you really want to figure out what that something is. Are you paying because it says Hermes on it, or are you actually paying because some poor sod like me is spending 10 hours making it for you, hand stitching it for you, like so? Now, maybe none of this is important to you, and that's okay, but I'm also a believer in what's called the velocity of money. I buy most of my stuff from small craftsmen, small shops. I know it's impossible for a lot of people just because the cost of living right now is insane, but it makes me feel good. I know when somebody gives me money, I go and spend it at my local pub, my local hairdresser. I spend it in the neighborhood. The money stays in the neighborhood. It has some velocity. It does some good. And that makes me feel good about spending it. It makes me feel good about buying from smaller craftsmen, especially when those smaller craftsmen are transparent. I buy a lot of handmade tools from the United States just because I like the businesses. It's not always possible. And again, this is not general buying advice. This is just advice if you're in the mood to buy a luxury item. And that's what I sell. I sell luxury items. They're not necessary, they're not needed. Um, it is what it is. It's something nice. I hope something you'll treasure and something that will last a very, very long time. Now, to sum this somewhat pseudo rant up here into some decent buying advice, if you take away nothing else from this video, take away the fact that you should find out if the handmade item that you are paying a lot of money for is actually handmade. You should definitely find out the tannery for that and what leather from said tannery. And if you can, you should ask questions about what sort of string they use, what sort of lining they use. Just really figure out what you're paying for, right? Because there's a lot of stuff around these days with a high price tag that just because it's supposed to be luxury. But to me, luxury means it's worth something. Somebody put some time and effort into it. The materials used in it are the finest materials. Now, is luxury necessary? No, of course not. Plenty of things that will get the job done. It just annoys me greatly to see these things passed off as luxury goods, as handmade goods, when they're just not. And it's fine if they were 20 quid, right? 20 bucks, you're just like, yeah, sure, handmade, whatever. As long as it holds together for a year or two, you don't really care. But when the $200, $300, $400 price tag starts popping up, it's just a bit obscene to me. So hopefully if you didn't know that genuine leather wasn't leather, that helps you. And if you thought that, you could just look for veg tan or something like that, you genuinely can't these days. You really need to ask. Now, hopefully you were able to follow along with what was going on in the background. The wooden jig you see me use, this is the first time I've used it. I've built a ton of these sort of card holding wallet things. I thought it might look good on video. It wasn't actually that useful. I'll put an SVG so you can laser cut it or just print it out and cut it with a saw should you want the jig. I wouldn't bother with it again, to be honest. Again, it was for video. So you saw me do some stitching on this wallet and I'm just kind of dry fitting here. This is when I made the jig, so I could kind of dry fit all this together just to show you on video. Now, I've swapped the ostrich pocket. The other one had a little bit of damage. I'll use it on one of mine. I don't mind that, but I wouldn't certainly gift it or give it to a client. To my eye, it looked fine, but there was damage, so I wouldn't use it. And again, that's another thing when buying an exotic skin, whether it be ostrich or alligator, and if you're buying it from pictures on the internet, ask the seller for a picture of the piece he's going to use for you. Because there's a lot of difference, especially in alligator, between the prices of different parts of the skin. Even with ostrich leg like this there's good bits and bad bits. So when I'm building something for a client, what I'll do is I'll put a template on top of the actual skin I'm going to use and send them a picture of that and say, hey, is this okay for you? Because oftentimes when you're buying off websites, they'll put a really, really nice bit of the skin on the display image, and then what you get will look nothing like that. So if you're buying exotic skin, another tip for you is ask them to show you a template on top of the actual piece of skin that they're using so you can give a yay or nay. Now, again, as I've said many times in this video, because it sounds like I'm kind of knocking buying cheaper goods, I am absolutely 100% not. And as I said, what I do is a luxury. However, if you're in the market for a luxury item, you want to get what you're paying for, right? This stuff's not cheap. There's a reason it's not cheap. Mostly labor, material cost, workshop rental is not cheap. I have to pay quite a lot for my workshop. It's a lot of things in it, but don't get your pants pulled down over the price. Make sure you're paying for something that's important to you. To me, that's materials and labor, the time taken, the care put in. For you, it might be something different, and that's okay. So you can see on this wallet, every single pocket was lined with that beautiful lamb. The thickness of this on the edges is 2.5 to 3 millimeters, and that is at the bottom 12 layers of leather. Now, so don't worry about getting yours that thin. There was a lot of hand skiving in this that happened off camera. There was a lot of this that actually happened off camera. I hope I've kept enough in so you can get the template and kind of follow along. You do not need the edge creasing tool I use, just a final nice point, nor do you need to line it. You might want to line the main body, but lining the individual pockets is somewhat insane. It's only really done with real leather. I almost said genuine leather there. Yeah, you see how deceptive that term is. It's only really done with real leather on the most highest of the high end stuff normally. If you see some lining that looks like leather, it's probably just PVC with a paper backing. So do ask again, and that's the point I'm trying to make. Now, each half of this wallet was punched separately. This is how you're going to get nice stitching on each side. So I'm doing a sanity check here with a needle, and that should go straight through. The straighter that is, the more accurate you are. Obviously, I'm quite accurate here. It's my job. And I stitched off camera because it's a pain in the backside to edit. And really, this video was supposed to be more of a me ranting about hopefully saving you some money over the Christmas period. Now, this stitching here, I did in a bit of a rush. If I'm honest, it's not bad considering at a lot of points it's going through 12 layers of leather. So I'm going to finish this off by burnishing it and dyeing it. You can edge paint it as well, of course, but I think on this one, a burnish and dye will be good. There's some German salamander bonded leather in this for strength and reinforcement, which I probably didn't show on the camera. So I'm going to dye it just so the edges are consistent color. I'm also going to use some metal furniture. So hopefully the templates that I provide will be of use to you. You can get some of your own stuff built, or at least give it a go. Hopefully some of the information I imparted in this video will give you a better idea of what to look for if you're in the market for a luxury leather good, so you don't just get some marketed crap that's built out of genuine leather. And I hope you found this interesting. Now, my atelier, my workshop, will be linked in the description if you want to go and check out some of the stuff I do. I've got some gift cards in for Christmas. I'm not sure about them, but my wife said they were a great idea. And fellas, I'm not going to argue with her this close to Christmas. So you can buy that here. You can get an in-depth look at the wallet. I'll, as I said, leave a link. I thank you very much for watching. Please do let me know your thoughts, if you like this or not. I personally love the ostrich leg, and I think the blue accent along with the blue lining touched everything off just nice. So I really hope you enjoyed this. Happy holidays to everyone. It's great to be back. I'll do a video maybe explaining why I haven't been putting out so much content lately. Just busy, basically. Thank you all so much.